The mansion was quiet early in the morning. The sun had barely started to rise, casting a soft golden light through the large windows. Inside, the house was filled with the usual sounds of preparation, staff rushing through their chores, the soft hum of the kitchen as breakfast was being made, and the sound of footsteps echoing on the marble floors. In this grand estate, everything had to be perfect. Everything had to be in its place. Among the staff, there was a maid who had worked at the mansion for several years. She was a black woman with a gentle spirit and a quiet way about her. Her name was Ava, and she had always been reliable. She cleaned the house, did the laundry, and prepared the rooms, but she never sought attention. She knew her place in the mansion, and that place was to serve. It had always been that way. The CEO of the mansion's household, a powerful woman named Mrs. Carter, rarely interacted with the staff. She was known for being tough, focused on her work, and, for the most part, unapproachable. Mrs. Carter had inherited the mansion from her family, and with it, she had taken on the role of managing the estate. Her days were filled with meetings, decisions, and long hours in her office. She didn't have time for small talk with the staff, and they were perfectly fine with that. The less interaction, the better. But Ava had always noticed something about Mrs. Carter. She noticed that the CEO often struggled to communicate with the staff when it came to small, personal matters. Mrs. Carter had a hearing impairment, which made conversations difficult for her, especially with people who didn't understand how to communicate with her. Ava had seen this struggle, and over time, she began to wonder if there was something she could do to help. It wasn't that Ava had a grand idea of becoming close to Mrs. Carter or impressing her. Ava had simply seen that the CEO needed help, and Ava believed that sometimes small actions can make a big difference. She thought about it for days, unsure whether to act on her feelings. But after much thought, she decided to do something about it. She began to study sign language. The next day, Ava woke up earlier than usual. Her mind was racing with thoughts about the meeting Mrs. Carter had mentioned. She had never been called into the CEO's office before, and now, after their brief but meaningful interaction the day before, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She didn't know exactly what to expect, but her curiosity was overwhelming. The next day felt like a whirlwind. Ava woke up with a sense of anticipation she had never experienced before. Her mind was still buzzing from the conversation she had with Mrs. Carter the day before. She had been offered a chance to take part in something big, something she had never imagined would happen to someone like her. But today was when everything would become clearer. Mrs. Carter had promised to give her more details, and Ava couldn't help but wonder what this special project was all about. As the weeks went by, Ava's life continued to change in ways she never expected. She had stepped into a world that was once far beyond her reach, a world filled with high-level meetings, complex projects, and responsibilities that made her feel both excited and overwhelmed. She had always been a quiet observer, but now, she was becoming a key player in something important. The project, which had started as a mysterious task with only a few details, was becoming clearer with each passing day. Ava had learned that it involved new technology, a breakthrough in communication systems that had the potential to revolutionize the way people connected with one another. It was a project that required precision, secrecy, and above all, trust. And Ava was trusted. She found herself working more closely with Mrs. Carter, who had become a mentor of sorts. The CEO, once a distant figure in Ava's life, now guided her through the intricacies of the project, always pushing her to think critically, to question assumptions, and to approach each challenge with an open mind. Ava was no longer just a maid in the mansion, she was a vital part of the team, someone who played an essential role in ensuring everything moved smoothly. But as the pressure grew, so did the weight of the responsibility on Ava's shoulders. She was involved in nearly every aspect of the project now. Her days were long, filled with meetings, planning sessions, and endless documents to review. The work was demanding, and though she was proud of what she was accomplishing, she sometimes found herself feeling exhausted. There were times when she would go to bed late, only to wake up early the next morning, ready to do it all again. But there was a sense of fulfillment that came with it. She had never felt more alive, more involved in something meaningful. One day, as Ava was sitting in her office, reviewing some important paperwork, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mrs. Carter. It simply read, "Meet me in the conference room in 30 minutes. I have an update for you." Ava's heart raced. She had grown used to these sudden meetings, but each time Mrs. Carter called her in, there was always a sense of anticipation. What did she need now? Was there a new challenge to face? Or was it something else? Ava quickly finished what she was working on and made her way to the conference room. As she entered, Mrs. Carter was already there, standing by the window, looking out over the mansion's grounds. The CEO turned as Ava walked in, and with a small smile, she gestured for her to take a seat. "Thank you for coming so quickly," Mrs. Carter said. "I have something important to discuss with you." Ava nodded, feeling the familiar mix of curiosity and nervousness. "Of course. What is it?" Mrs. Carter hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "I've been thinking about how far you've come in such a short time, Ava. You've taken on more responsibility than I ever expected, and you've done it with such grace and professionalism. I've been watching you closely, and I believe you're ready for the next step." Ava's heart skipped a beat. "What next step?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "The project is nearing completion, and we're at a critical point," Mrs. Carter explained. "The team has done well, but now, I need someone who can step up and take charge of the final phase. It's going to require someone who can manage both the technical side of things and the logistics. Someone who can make quick decisions under pressure. I believe you're the right person for the job." Ava's mind raced. She had never imagined that this was what she would be doing when she first learned sign language to help Mrs. Carter. Now, here she was, being asked to lead a crucial phase of the project. The thought was both thrilling and intimidating. Could she really do it? Could she handle such a huge responsibility? "I won't let you down," Ava said quietly, though she wasn't entirely sure she believed her own words. She knew the task ahead of her would be demanding, but she also knew that this was the opportunity of a lifetime. There was no way she could turn back now. "I know you won't," Mrs. Carter said, her tone reassuring. "You've already proven yourself, Ava. I wouldn't trust anyone else with this." The rest of the meeting was spent discussing the specifics of the project and what Ava's new role would entail. Mrs. Carter gave her the details of the final phase, explaining how Ava would be responsible for coordinating with the technical team, overseeing the logistics, and ensuring everything was running on schedule. It was a massive responsibility, but Mrs. Carter was confident that Ava could handle it. As Ava left the conference room, her mind was buzzing with the enormity of what she had just been told. She had been trusted with the final stage of a project that could change the world. She felt both proud and terrified. She had always been the one to follow instructions, to keep her head down and do her job. But now, she was being asked to lead. She was stepping into a role she had never dreamed possible. Over the next few weeks, Ava threw herself into her new role with everything she had. There were moments when she felt overwhelmed, moments when she doubted herself, but there were also moments of triumph. She was managing a team, making decisions, and seeing the project come together. It wasn't easy, and there were challenges every step of the way, but Ava found strength in the trust Mrs. Carter had placed in her. The project moved forward smoothly, and soon, it was ready to be presented to the board. Ava had been a key part of the success, and when the day finally came for the big presentation, she stood alongside Mrs. Carter and the rest of the team, proud of what they had accomplished. As the project was unveiled, it became clear just how important it was. The new technology had the potential to change the way people communicated, and it was a breakthrough that would set the company apart from all its competitors. Ava had played a vital role in bringing it to life. Looking back, Ava could hardly believe how far she had come. She had started as a maid in a grand mansion, quietly doing her work, never expecting anything more. But through hard work, determination, and the unexpected opportunity to help Mrs. Carter, she had become a key player in something that could shape the future. As the presentation ended, Mrs. Carter turned to Ava, her face filled with pride. "You did it," she said, signing the words with a smile. "You helped make this happen." Ava smiled back, her heart full. She had come so far, and there was no telling where her journey would take her next. But one thing was certain, she was no longer the quiet maid in the background. She was a leader, trusted with an important role, and ready for whatever the future held. The following days passed in a blur. Ava had barely settled into her new role before things started moving quickly. Mrs. Carter had made it clear that the project was urgent, and it seemed that everything needed to happen fast. Ava, who had once spent her days quietly managing household chores, now found herself caught in a whirlwind of activity, meetings, and tasks that were unlike anything she had ever done before. At first, it was overwhelming. Ava's mind was constantly racing as she tried to keep up with the pace of things. Every time she thought she had a moment to breathe, another task would be waiting for her. She was working alongside a small, tight-knit team, all of whom were experts in their respective fields. They didn't know Ava very well at first, but she quickly proved herself to be more than capable. She was organized, dependable, and had a way of handling things that impressed everyone around her. One of the team members, Mark, was a senior engineer who had been working on the project from the very beginning. He was in charge of the technical side of things, and though he had initially been skeptical about having someone like Ava on the team, he soon saw that she was more than capable. Ava had a knack for understanding complex information and keeping things running smoothly. Whether it was managing schedules, taking notes during meetings, or following up on important tasks, Ava became an integral part of the team. The first time they worked together on a major task was when the team was reviewing a new design that was crucial to the project's success. Ava had no technical background, but she still contributed by organizing the information and making sure that everyone had what they needed. Mark, who had expected to do everything himself, was surprised at how much Ava was able to assist, even without knowing all the technical details. She asked the right questions and paid attention to the smallest details, which made a big difference. "I have to admit, I didn't expect you to handle things this well," Mark said after the meeting. "You've got a good head on your shoulders." Ava smiled, feeling a sense of pride. "I'm just doing my job," she said, though in reality, she was doing much more than that. As the days went by, Ava began to feel more comfortable in her new role. She learned quickly that the project wasn't just about technical expertise, it was about communication, organization, and being able to adapt on the fly. And Ava was learning all of that in real time. She was also beginning to understand why Mrs. Carter had trusted her with this responsibility. The CEO had always been a perfectionist, and she needed someone who could handle the pressure and move things forward without getting distracted by obstacles. One of the most difficult parts of the job was the secrecy. Every aspect of the project was confidential. Ava couldn't share any details with anyone outside the team, not even with her closest friends or family. It was strange for someone who had always lived a quiet life, where everything was out in the open. But now, she had to keep her lips sealed about something that felt bigger than anything she had ever imagined. It was a strange feeling, and at times, it made Ava feel isolated. She couldn't talk about her day with anyone, couldn't share the excitement or the frustrations that came with such a huge responsibility. But she knew that it was a part of the job, and she couldn't let it distract her from the mission. One afternoon, Mrs. Carter called Ava into her office for a one-on-one meeting. Ava had been working with the team on organizing important documents, so she wasn't sure what this meeting was about. When she entered the office, Mrs. Carter was sitting behind her desk, a stack of papers in front of her. She smiled when Ava walked in and signed a greeting. "I just wanted to check in with you," Mrs. Carter said as she motioned for Ava to sit down. "How are things going? Are you feeling okay with everything?" Ava took a deep breath and sat down, feeling the weight of the question. "It's been a lot to handle, but I'm getting the hang of it. I'm learning quickly, and I'm doing everything I can to help." Mrs. Carter nodded, her expression thoughtful. "I'm glad to hear that. You've been doing an excellent job, Ava. I know it's not easy, but I'm confident that you're exactly who we need for this project." Ava felt a surge of pride hearing Mrs. Carter's praise. She had never been one to seek attention or recognition, but it felt good to know that her efforts were making a difference. "I appreciate your trust in me," Ava said, her voice sincere. "I won't let you down." Mrs. Carter smiled again, her eyes softening. "I know you won't. And that's why I'm giving you a new responsibility." Ava's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean? You've been doing such an excellent job organizing things and keeping the team on track. I want you to take on a larger role in managing the project's logistics," Mrs. Carter explained. "You'll be working directly with me to make sure everything is in place for the next phase of the project. It's a big step, but I believe you're ready for it." Ava didn't know what to say. This was more responsibility than she had ever been given, and it was both exciting and terrifying. She had always done her job without drawing attention, but now, Mrs. Carter was giving her a role that would require her to take charge, to manage not just herself but the entire flow of the project. "I'm honored," Ava said quietly. "I'll do my best." "I know you will," Mrs. Carter replied, her voice full of confidence. "You've come a long way in a short time, Ava. I have no doubt you'll succeed." As Ava left the office, her mind was spinning. She had just been given a huge responsibility, one that would change the course of her life. She couldn't quite believe it. Just a few weeks ago, she had been a maid, quietly doing her job without ever expecting her life to change. But now, she was part of something bigger. She was trusted with a role that most people would never get a chance to take on. Ava didn't know what the future held, but she was ready. She had come so far already, and she wasn't going to stop now. With Mrs. Carter's trust and the support of her team, Ava knew she was about to step into a world she had never imagined. But she was ready for whatever came next. This expanded version of Part 4 focuses on Ava's growth in her NE. As Ava moved through her usual morning routine, her thoughts kept drifting back to the conversation in Mrs. Carter's office. The more she thought about it, the more nervous she became. She had always been a maid. She had never considered herself as someone who would be involved in the high-level operations of the company, let alone a secret project. She knew she was good at her job, but this was something entirely different. She tried to focus on her tasks, polishing the furniture, setting the table for breakfast, and preparing the house for the day. But everything felt off. She couldn't help but wonder how her life was going to change after today. What kind of role would she have? What would the project involve? Her mind raced with questions, and though she knew she couldn't get the answers just yet, the uncertainty was starting to feel heavy on her shoulders. When breakfast was finished, and the house had settled into its usual rhythm, Ava found herself walking back to Mrs. Carter's office. She could feel her heart racing in her chest, her hands slightly trembling as she reached for the door. What would Mrs. Carter say today? Would she give her more details about the project? Or would she change her mind and tell Ava that she wasn't ready for something like this? As she knocked and entered the office, she was greeted by Mrs. Carter's calm, steady presence. The CEO was seated behind her desk, papers scattered in front of her, her attention focused on something important. When she saw Ava enter, she smiled and signed a greeting before looking directly at her. "Come in, Ava. I'm glad you're here." Ava stepped into the room, her nerves still on edge. "Good morning," she signed back, her hands moving smoothly in the sign language she had worked so hard to learn. Mrs. Carter's smile grew, and she motioned for Ava to take a seat across from her. "I know this is all very sudden," Mrs. Carter began, her voice calm but full of purpose. "But I've been thinking about you, and about the project I want you to be involved in. I know it might seem overwhelming, but I believe you have the ability to handle this. You've already proven that you can be trusted with delicate matters, and now I need someone who can keep things confidential and see things through." Ava sat in the chair, her mind still trying to process everything. "I don't understand," she finally said, her voice soft but filled with curiosity. "What is this project? What do you need me to do?" Mrs. Carter leaned forward slightly, her expression serious. "It's a project that involves some very sensitive technology. It's something we've been developing in secret for quite some time, and now it's reaching a point where it needs to be handled with care. I can't go into all the details just yet, but I can tell you this: it's important, and it has the potential to change everything for this company." Ava nodded, trying to absorb the weight of Mrs. Carter's words. She still didn't understand exactly what was being asked of her, but the seriousness in the CEO's tone told her that this was not something to be taken lightly. "I need someone who can communicate with the right people, handle confidential information, and keep the project moving forward," Mrs. Carter continued. "It's not an easy job, but I believe you can do it." Ava felt her heart beat faster. This was real. Mrs. Carter wasn't just talking about a new role or a small task, she was talking about something that could have a major impact on the company, on the world. And somehow, she wanted Ava to be a part of it. "What do you want me to do?" Ava asked again, her voice filled with both nervousness and excitement. "First, I need you to join a small, trusted team. You'll be working closely with them, and they will rely on your input. There will be a lot of sensitive information involved, so I need to make sure that you understand the responsibility. The team will be communicating with you, and you'll need to ensure that everything is organized and managed correctly." Ava nodded, trying to keep up. She had no idea what the project would involve, but she knew that if Mrs. Carter trusted her, she couldn't back down. She had to take this opportunity seriously. "I'm giving you a chance to be part of something bigger than anything you've ever done," Mrs. Carter added, her voice steady. "I know it's a lot to take in, but you'll have support. You'll work closely with me and the rest of the team to make sure everything is done right. The project is already in motion, but we need someone who can handle the final steps. Someone who can think on their feet and act quickly." Ava's mind was spinning. She had never imagined that this day would come. She had always kept her head down, done her job, and kept to herself. But now, she was being asked to take on a role that was completely foreign to her. She wasn't sure if she was ready, but she knew that this could be the break she had been waiting for. "I won't let you down," Ava said, her voice filled with determination. "I'll do whatever it takes." Mrs. Carter gave a small nod of approval. "Good. I'm glad to hear that. This project will change everything, and I need someone who is willing to step up. I believe you're the right person for the job." Ava's heart swelled with a mix of excitement and fear. She didn't know what was coming next, but she knew that she couldn't back out now. She had been given an opportunity, and she wasn't going to waste it. Over the next few hours, Mrs. Carter explained more about the project, giving Ava a brief overview of what it would involve. She still couldn't share all the details, but Ava was beginning to understand that this was a task that would require everything she had: her intelligence, her focus, and her ability to adapt. As Ava left the office, her mind was racing with thoughts of what the future might hold. She had been given a chance to prove herself in a way she had never expected. and no matter what, she was going to take it. This version of part 3 builds up the tension and excitement while keeping the story engaging and easy to follow. Let me know if you'd like to make any adjustments. She spent the morning getting everything ready for the day, just like she always did. But today, everything felt different. Her usual tasks didn't seem to hold her attention as they normally did. Every time she moved through the halls of the mansion, her thoughts wandered back to Mrs. Carter's invitation. What did she want from her? Was it really just about the sign language, or was there something more? Ava couldn't help but think about how strange it was for her, a maid, to be called in by the CEO. Most staff, including Ava, only saw the CEO from a distance. She was a figure of power who commanded respect, and everyone knew their place. Ava had never imagined that a simple act of kindness would lead her to a situation like this. She tried to push the thoughts aside, focusing on her chores, but they crept back every time she paused. By the time breakfast was finished and the other staff were preparing to leave for their shifts, Ava found herself making her way to the CEO's office. As she walked down the long corridor leading to Mrs. Carter's office, Ava felt a knot forming in her stomach. She had never been this nervous about a meeting before. What would Mrs. Carter say? Was she going to tell Ava that the little exchange the day before had been nothing more than a fluke? Or was something bigger about to happen? She tried to shake off the uncertainty, but the questions kept coming. When she arrived at the office, she knocked on the door, just as she had done the day before. "Come in," Mrs. Carter's voice called from inside. Ava opened the door and stepped inside, her heart beating faster with each step. Mrs. Carter was sitting behind her large wooden desk, a sleek, modern chair that looked out over the mansion's grounds. She had a calm and collected air about her, but today, there was something different in her demeanor. She looked up as Ava entered, giving her a small smile. "Good morning, Ava," she signed as she spoke, her hands moving gracefully. Ava smiled and returned the greeting, feeling a bit of relief. Mrs. Carter seemed calm, which helped ease some of Ava's nerves. "I'm glad you could make it," Mrs. Carter said, her voice soft but confident. "I know this may be unexpected for you, but I have something important to discuss. Something that could change things for you." Ava didn't know what to say. She simply nodded, waiting for Mrs. Carter to continue. "You've impressed me, Ava," Mrs. Carter said, her eyes scanning the room as if searching for the right words. "I've been observing the staff for quite some time now, and there's something about you. You're different. You took the time to learn sign language just to help me, and I'm not used to that kind of dedication. Most people wouldn't go out of their way to do something like that." Ava felt a flush of warmth spread across her cheeks. She had never expected her actions to be so noticed. She had only learned sign language to make Mrs. Carter's life a little easier. It had never been about seeking recognition or praise. "Thank you," Ava said, her voice barely above a whisper. She wasn't sure what else to say. She had always been humble, and the idea of being singled out like this was overwhelming. Mrs. Carter seemed to sense Ava's discomfort and offered a reassuring smile. "I understand that this may be a lot to take in, but I want to be clear," she continued. "I'm not just thanking you for helping me communicate better. I'm offering you something more. I want you to join a special project I'm working on." Ava's heart skipped a beat. A special project? She had no idea what Mrs. Carter was referring to, but it sounded important. Mrs. Carter leaned forward slightly, her expression serious but welcoming. "This project is something that could change the direction of the company. It's top secret, and not many people even know it exists. But I believe you have the skills and qualities that could make a real difference. You've proven that you can handle delicate matters with respect, and that's exactly what this project needs." Ava's mind was racing, trying to process everything Mrs. Carter had just said. She couldn't understand why she, a maid, was being chosen for something so important. She felt a sense of disbelief creeping in. But why me? Ava finally asked, her voice shaking. I'm just a maid. I don't have the experience or qualifications for something like this. Mrs. Carter smiled, her eyes softening. That's exactly why I'm choosing you. You don't have the baggage or preconceived notions that many of the other staff might have. You're fresh, reliable, and you think outside the box. That's rare. I need someone who can approach things from a different perspective, someone who isn't afraid to take on new challenges. And you've already shown me that you can do that. Ava felt a wave of shock wash over her. She had always thought of herself as someone who followed instructions, someone who did her job without questioning it. But Mrs. Carter was seeing something in her that Ava had never recognized in herself. I'm not asking you to leave your current role, Mrs. Carter continued. But I want you to help me with this project. You'll be working with a small, trusted team. The details will be kept confidential, but I believe you can make a real impact. Ava nodded, her mind still spinning. She was being offered an opportunity she had never even dreamed of. She had no idea what the project was, but Mrs. Carter seemed to believe in her, and that was enough for now. I'll do my best, Ava said, her voice filled with determination. She had always worked hard, but now she felt like she had a purpose beyond just doing her job. This was something bigger, something that could change her life. Good, Mrs. Carter said, her expression warm. I'll give you more details tomorrow. For now, I just wanted you to know that I'm trusting you with this. I have high expectations, but I believe you can meet them. As Ava left the office, her mind was in a whirlwind. She had just been asked to take part in something that could change everything for her. It was a chance she had never expected, a chance to prove herself in a way she had never imagined. She didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, she felt like she was on the path to something greater. Mrs. Carter's trust was a gift, and Ava knew she couldn't let it slip away. Ava had no formal training in sign language, but she was determined to learn. In her free time, she used the internet to watch videos and read about the basics. Slowly, she picked up the signs for common phrases: hello, thank you, how are you? She practiced in front of a mirror, unsure if anyone would ever notice her effort, but feeling quietly proud of each small victory. She spent weeks learning, hoping it would come in handy one day. One morning, as Ava was preparing the kitchen for breakfast, she noticed Mrs. Carter coming down the grand staircase. She was dressed in her usual dark suit, looking every bit the powerful businesswoman that she was. Mrs. Carter had always seemed distant and unapproachable, but today, something was different. As she walked past the kitchen, she looked at Ava and smiled. It was a small gesture, but to Ava, it felt significant. Mrs. Carter had never really acknowledged her before, and Ava took it as a sign to take the next step. She gathered her courage and walked up to Mrs. Carter, who was now standing at the door, preparing to leave for her office. Ava took a deep breath and, with a soft smile, signed good morning in simple, slow movements. Mrs. Carter stopped in her tracks, her eyebrows raised in surprise. Ava felt a rush of nervousness but held her ground. To her astonishment, Mrs. Carter signed back the same greeting, her hands moving with precision. Ava's heart skipped a beat as she realized that the CEO knew sign language. Mrs. Carter's face softened as she looked at Ava. "Thank you," she signed back. "I appreciate that." Her voice, though quiet, was warm and sincere. Ava smiled, feeling a sense of pride swelling inside her chest. In that moment, the barriers between them seemed to fall away. It wasn't just a simple greeting, it was a connection. A connection that transcended the usual roles of employer and employee. "You're welcome," Ava signed, her hands shaking slightly with excitement. Mrs. Carter's smile grew, and she nodded in approval. The brief exchange left Ava feeling both proud and nervous. She had never expected this to happen, and it certainly wasn't the reason she had learned sign language. She had simply wanted to make Mrs. Carter's life a little easier, but it seemed that this small act had made a bigger impact than she could have ever imagined. As Ava turned to continue her work in the kitchen, she heard Mrs. Carter's voice behind her. "Ava," she called, and Ava turned, her heart racing. "Would you meet me in my office after breakfast?" Ava nodded, not knowing what to expect. Mrs. Carter's tone had been calm but purposeful. She didn't ask for the maid to come to her office very often, and Ava felt a sense of curiosity mixed with uncertainty. She didn't want to overthink it, but the request was unusual. What could it mean? Why her? The rest of the morning passed in a blur. Ava couldn't focus on her usual chores as she kept thinking about what had just happened. She was excited but anxious, unsure of what the future held. She had never thought of herself as anything other than a maid in the mansion, but now, for the first time, she was being asked to meet with the CEO. After breakfast, she made her way to the CEO's office. Her heart pounded in her chest as she approached the door. She paused outside for a moment, trying to calm her nerves. She had no idea what this meeting would be about, but she knew it was important. She knocked lightly on the door and heard Mrs. Carter's voice from inside. "Come in." Ava opened the door and stepped inside. Mrs. Carter was seated behind her desk, her hands resting on the table in front of her. She looked up and smiled at Ava, gesturing for her to take a seat. "I wanted to thank you for your kindness this morning," Mrs. Carter said, her voice quiet but warm. "It's not often that someone makes the effort to understand me. You've done something I've been hoping for. You've made me feel seen, Ava." Ava was taken aback by the words. She hadn't expected this level of recognition. She had simply learned sign language to help make communication easier, not to earn praise. "Thank you," Ava said softly, unsure of what else to say. Mrs. Carter smiled, her eyes thoughtful. "Tomorrow, I'd like you to come with me to a special meeting," she said, leaning forward slightly. "It's an important meeting, and I believe you have something to offer. We can discuss it more tomorrow. But for now, thank you." As Ava left the office, she felt a sense of excitement bubbling up inside her. She couldn't wait to see what would happen next. She had no idea how much her life was about to change.